You're listening to Dead Air Podcast, part of splatterpictures.net.
What's up, everybody? Wes. Dead Air Night here with always
Typical Lydia.
Today's show, we're going to be doing the 2023 classic Dark Harvest. Oh, they howl a lot.
Come on. Really, man? Really?
I'm sorry. They howl a lot.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They do howl a lot. And I mean, what group of ornery teen boys don't? I didn't expect you to call it classic so soon.
I am like a Nostradamus. I am a soothsayer. You watch when people listen to our podcast in 100 years, and they will. They're going to be, wow, the proclamation powers of West Dead Air Night. He knew that Dark Harvest was going to become a classic. No, I think it's like a verbal tick. Like I have to say it sometimes.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, that makes sense. And you know, that is our intro, basically. Part of our intro at the very least. This particular movie came about not only because it was the feel-good hit of Midsummer, it was a book that caught your eye, which is like, hello, welcome to Bizarro Land and Topsy-Turvy Day. Today I'll be your backwards host, Wes Dead Air Lydia. And my friend here, typical Wes, will be reading books. What the fuck?
Dear listeners, I am not really a reader, and it's not that I don't like books. I do, and every time that I am watching Lydia's Typical Books of Terror on YouTube, check it out. Every time that she is talking about some book, she's doing her hauls for the month, or she is, talking stuff about that's been on her bookshelf for a while. I'm like, ooh, that looks good, and I like add it to my Amazon basket, and like, oh, that looks interesting. Add it to my Amazon basket, and there it sits to rot like a jack-o'-lantern in December, which is where we are talking about a goddamn Halloween movie. For some reason, and I didn't hear about this book from you, Lids. It was the other way around. And this is all about like how my brain works. And it starts with an image. And the image is from the fucking movie. And I see some teen boys in masks that look like the Fiend mask from the fucking Misfits. And I was like, what's this? Why are they all wearing Misfit Fiend masks? I don't know why they're wearing those masks. It's not explained. But then I find out that it's because of this movie, Dark Harvest. And I'm like, well, what's this? And Dark Harvest is a movie coming out, and I read a synopsis of the plot. It sounded interesting. I found out that it was from a book. And then a secondary image crosses my threshold of a pumpkin man and stalks of corn. And the image from the cover of this book, Dark Harvest, is so compelling, so interesting. It looks so fun. And I heard it was a short book. And I definitely thought, we're seeing scarecrow magic. We are seeing corn. It is October. Lydia has definitely read this book, bought it twice. Probably, I actually went onto your YouTube channel to find if you had ever talked about the book. And you hadn't, which is why I asked you if you had read this book. And you hadn't.
And I was surprised in a way of myself that I hadn't, because it is a Bram Stoker award-winning book. It is a book that people talk about. It's a book people talk about every October. And I think there are so many books in this planet.
Yes.
And so many books, especially around October. People have their favorite books that they read every year. And there are 57 of those that everyone reads October night, basically, on Halloween night. And Dark Harvest is one of them. So I just filed it along with, these are all the Halloween books that I will read someday. And never did until now.
We had a brief discussion about doing this. And when I had seen your YouTube channel, the very next episode that you had done, you had mentioned to me which I love, by the way. And you mentioned me and you talked about the show, and you had already purchased your copy of Dark Harvest. Where was my copy of Dark Harvest? In my Amazon basket. But I was bullied, inspired. There's the word, to buy the book myself, because I was like, okay, we're doing this. Lydia has said it on YouTube, which is written in stone. So it's on YouTube. I got to read this fucking book. And so I read the book, and it was like a race against time, because I know how long it takes me to fucking read even a short. This book is short, gang. It's not very long, but even just that took me like 2 weeks to fucking read. I was like, oh my God, I gotta watch this fucking movie. I gotta fucking watch this movie. But like, maybe I'll just stop reading the book. I was like freaking out, but I managed to read the book. And then we got ready to do the show, and I get to be in a position that I have not been in a long time, Lydia, where I can snootily say while I watch the movie, well, in the book that didn't happen. Well, it's different than how they did that in the book. And the last time that this was a situation that I can clearly remember was when I was a little kid, which shows you how bad of a reader I am, with Goosebumps. That's right. When I was reading Goosebumps books, I read the books before the TV show premiered. And then when the TV show premiered and they started tackling episodes that were based off of books that I'd already read, I was like, that's different. And this is appropriate. Why? Because we got ourselves a Goosebumps here. The whole time I was reading this book, I was like, this is not a one-to-one correspondence with an R.L. Stine Goosebumps classic. Like maybe, what is it, Night of the Scarecrow or Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns or any of the stuff that he's done for Halloween night. But this definitely seemed like so maybe it's not a Goosebumps. Maybe it's more of a Fear Street. It's like the R.L. Stine grown up, because it's a little bit more violent, or a lot more violent. But that was my whole time. But what did you think of I want to know what you thought of the book first, and then we're going to talk about the movie.
We'll get it all out of our system to talk about the book first, I guess. That makes a lot of sense. Norman Partridge wrote this. I think it was 2006. It was a Bram Stoker Award winner, maybe even a debut novel. He's written quite a bit since and before. It sounds like a really cool dude. He had his finger on a pulse with writing this book, though, where it was that cusp where we're full in, we're balls deep in the nostalgia for R.L. Stine these days. And we've seen The Fear Street come and go on Netflix. We have like other rehashings of R.L. Stine. He's even written like adult books since then. At this time he hadn't, that I recall anyway, like really adult books. So like we are like past that, but this is right at that beginning of, seeing the wave in the distance sort of thing coming at you, that he wrote this. And I think it was such perfect timing. And it's not a wonder that it won. It's not a wonder that it's become ingrained in so many readers as far as a Halloween classic over the last less than 20 years that this book has been on planet Earth. I get it. And it's weird to me that it took so long to make into a movie, because so many people have talked about wanting to see this on the screen for years. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. I read it fairly quickly because I read quickly. It's about 200 pages, just under 200 pages. So I think I read it over a weekend. It's a novella. It's a longer novella, or a very short novel, a novelette perhaps, if you want to get technical. So I think it's really perfect, and it's a great choice. When I saw that the length, I thought it was a bigger book too, because I always think of it in one-to-one with Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon, which is a very different book. I don't know why I conflated the two at all, but I didn't know as much about Dark Harvest going into it as I ought to, maybe. I just thought it was a way more serious, darker folk horror tale, where it is a more lighter suburban folk horror tale. and short. It's a very short little book. So I really recommend it for everyone's Halloween reading. We are recording here at the beginning of December. Harvest has come and gone here in Canada, but I will have you know that up to at least yesterday, you could still get a pumpkin spice latte at McDonald's.
That's got to count for something.
It has got to count for something. And I believe people are still sort of celebrating spooky season in the US because there's a lot of places that don't have snow yet and the leaves are still like falling and turning and stuff. So like they have a much later Thanksgiving than us for that reason. Probably continue to celebrate pumpkin spice latte into December, the lucky bastards. So it's not completely untoward for us to be covering a Halloween story. Because do they explicitly say that it takes place on Halloween night? Or is this just some harvest night? Is it more of a Thanksgiving story, Wes?
No, it is a, technically speaking, it is a devil's night. It's like The Crow. It takes place the day before, or the night of, the day before October 31st. And then it goes into Halloween night, and then and so like the midnight party is kind of like after all is said and done is kind of like a Halloween party. So this is like a Halloween proper story. People wear masks. There's the October Boy, or Sawtooth Jack, depending on which nickname you prefer. The Trick with the heart full of treats. He's got a lot of names, and I do love it. This book was very surprising to me. My 1 or 2 sentence review. It's a pre-credit scene that the title never comes, and this book doesn't really wait for you to start reading it. You are immediately tossed into the story. And I kept thinking, okay, this is ramping up. This is crazy. This pace is relentless, and something is going to happen, and it's going to cut to modern times, because we start out in the 1960s, early 1960s specifically. And I just kept wondering, okay, when is this going to slow down? When am I going to be allowed to breathe, process? But no, you've arrived to a movie 10 minutes too late, and you're grasping at the seats in the dark while all this action is happening on the screen, and you wonder how you got there. That is the pace of this book. It is absolutely relentless. And at the time, when I first started reading it, I didn't like it. I was like, okay, so this first chapter set piece is going to be done, and now we're going to have some characters talking maybe for 5 minutes or something. But no, we are just going boom, 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 and you're like, who are these characters? What is the context for this? Why are they doing anything? Why do they have to be starved? And you're waiting for any answers to come. And at least as far as the book is concerned, they not only don't offer you those answers to what is going on, but they have a knowing nudge, nudge. You get it. You know all about this story. They treat you as an insider that's grown up with this lore your entire life, as if you're a member of this town. It's wild.
It almost has like secret werewolf kind of feel to the beginning, because of the way people are acting so animalistic, and you have to keep your sons in at night, and no one explains to them exactly fully why. So of course they can't explain to you why they're being trapped in and starved in their rooms alone, and why they don't really have these conversations amongst each other that we can overhear as sort of like an expo dump to understand what's going on. I really like it. And then at the same time, I guess the quietness that we get, the only break we really get is eventually when we do see things from the point of view of the October Boy himself. And those are the quietest lulls in the book. But it's also sort of disconcerting in a way, because you're obviously, it's like being told a story from Cujo, from the eyes and perspective of Cujo. When you enter Cujo's frame of mind, it's awkward and sad, and it's not human, so you don't really get a lot of information because, of course, it's being filtered through the eyes of a creature like Cujo. And that's how I feel with the point of view of October Boy. Although it is the only lull we get, it is just as depressing and lack of information as the rest of it. Although it isn't at that pace, where we have that like constant threat, though, that is kind of hammering through the book. Constant threat of other people, almost like in a Hunger Games way. Constant threat of the October Boy, whatever he is, or Sawtooth Jack, if they're one and the same, which sometimes in the reading the book, you almost think are there two different creatures, because you get to sort of meet, quote unquote, the October Boy. And he's not as menacing, maybe, as he's made out to be. I don't know. I like your description of being dropped in 10 minutes after the movie has started here and trying to fumble your way through trying to get an explanation.
Well, that's the book. But we are a movie podcast, so we should talk about the movie. And I am just going to put this on Front Street right now and say probably didn't really like the movie as much as I liked the book. And I think that for me, I'm not entirely sure if that would have changed had I not read the book, because I tried to separate things once I had realized that we are dealing with like a completely different protagonist. Let's start there. So we have broken the back of this story. So that's the art of adaptation. You can't just do a one-for-one version of the book. It doesn't typically work. This book is short enough that I would wonder if you could probably get away with doing it pretty close if you felt like it. But generally speaking, okay, I get it. You need to change things. So we're taking out Pete and we're bringing the most petulant child I have ever met in my entire fucking life. And I think one of the reasons that immediately full stop made me dislike this film in terms of like how it differentiates from the book is Richie does nothing for me. Like, I cannot fucking stand this character. I do not get his fucking, aside from being petulant and wanting to see his brother, this like clenched ass, like I'm so fucking mad, like I don't get it. And he's got like, he's part of a gang and it's like the most pathetic fucking street gang I've ever seen in my entire life. They all just get their asses kicked all the time. Like, you would think a bunch of guys in matching vests would be the tough guys, but they're not.
I think it's also that transplanting the kind of attitude of the 50s and 60s. In the book, it reads very blue collar, very suburban, very quiet, somewhat meek. It's just a little town doing what they can, getting by, having their little harvest ceremony, you know, just because they do every year. And it's all very like brush cuts and white shirts, blue jeans, kind of very plain in that Stephen King sort of way. People ride bikes and save the neighborhood. In the film, it's very frat boy and we got to do things for the team, very varsity oriented and very like high octane 50s, where everyone's driving hot cars and going to the diner and dating and going steady, and all that stuff is the focus, which is very like Archie comics level of 50s and 60s culture, where we were dealing with more of, in the book, a very realistic sort of very like Stand By Me level of 50s culture, where everyone was sort of down on their luck a little bit. And I liked that flavor of the 50s and 60s a lot better than I did in the film, where we open with hooting and hollering frat boys running amok through the streets. It's a very different flavor and not really one I want to hang out with. I mean, there was one there's movies like Sometimes They Come Back or The Final Girl, those sorts of movies that do that fairly well because it's a caricature of itself. And they're making a statement about that sort of culture in the 60s, where this is just trying to like just be very on Front Street. These are what these guys are like, and this is what's good and cool and normal, is being this like hooting, hollering, howling. The howling is just insane to me. And then tearing apart their quarry like savage animals.
There is an aspect in, and I don't mean to keep hearkening back to the book, but I don't know if I can help it. There is an aspect in the book that it made it seem somewhat plausible that this harvest day was somewhat a shadowy, almost cultish like ritual that was kept by a close knit group of the Harvest Society and also teen boys. It's almost as if like God, I can't remember. It's almost like in Battle Royale where like you could almost imagine, okay, I guess that it kind of makes sense that the kids don't know that one class is randomly selected. Or again, talking about the Hunger Games and stuff like that. But I mean, but everyone there in the Hunger Games knows what's going on. The way that the movie depicts this, it's so like the starving of the boys, the riling them up, the fact that you're led to believe that this is somehow not like the absolute focus of this entire town. Everybody knows this in and out. Everyone knows that you're cursed and you can't leave. Like, but yet they still try to have like hushed whisperings as if there's a large part of this that's still clouded by rumors. And I don't understand. Like, you have people that compete in this thing multiple years. You have people. It's a small fucking town. People literally just look outside your window while roaming packs of teenage boys are screeching and yelling. Like, what do people think is going on here? Like, I don't understand how I am supposed to believe that this is somehow kind of a secret. Like, I just don't get it. Like, at least in the book, it seemed somewhat fucking plausible. In this, it doesn't seem plausible at all. This opening sequence is insane, by the way. I do like the visuals of this movie. I think that, like, I don't hate this movie whatsoever. I just felt myself wondering why they took so many divergence from the actual book. Could you guess?
I think that that's a common complaint. That's why so many people sit back with arms crossed, huffing in the back of the theater going, oh, it's not as good as the book. When we had a conversation before recording that maybe they couldn't bring a lot of this. Maybe this doesn't make a good movie. But I really think it's about treatment. And this was treated as something different. And it was scripted as something different. So there are so many differences in the book that I just didn't like. Character changes. The person who tends the scarecrow, because spoiler alert, there's a scarecrow sort of figure in this. But the person that tends that scarecrow is some random dude that the county hires, I guess, or the Harvest Society pays well, and like he knows what's going on. The idea of in the book where people sort of can't put all the pieces together because they've sort of masterminded it the way that the person who takes care of that scarecrow is different every year for reasons we'll get into. But like, it's those little tiny changes that make the book work and the mystery work, where in the movie it's all very telegraphed at the beginning. And that brings me to the idea that they didn't want to give it all away by naming the guy what he's named in Dark Harvest, the book, the October Boy, which is such a cool name that really embodies like the Great Pumpkin sort of feel to it. It's the October Boy. He's Sam from Trick or Treat, and he's described sort of closer to Sam from Trick or Treat, which is a fantastic Halloween spirit of like this little dude shuffling around the streets at night with a pumpkin head. I mean, October Boy sounds more creepy and fantastical to me than Sawtooth Jack. Sawtooth Jack sounds made up. Sawtooth Jack is Spring-Heeled Jack. Sawtooth Jack is the Mothman. Sawtooth Jack lives in the Pine Barrens. You know, Sawtooth Jack to me is a cryptid that doesn't exist. The October Boy, however, sounds like an entity that embodies this ancient Halloween spirit come to life.
I think what calling something the October Boy does, that Sawtooth. So, dear listeners, in the book, they waffle between referring to this character as Sawtooth Jack, which makes sense because if you look at the pumpkin-headed being on the book cover, he's got a jagged jack-o'-lantern mouth, and Sawtooth Jack, I get it. But primarily, at the beginning, at the very least, they call him the October Boy, which is great in my opinion because it sounds so benign. Sawtooth Jack sounds like something that's fucking dangerous. That's like something that a serial killer would give themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's that type of thing. But October Boy, it has this like Gnostic quality to it, like you said, like very dripped in folklore, and it enters into this creepy area in which your brain can't discern, is that something dangerous? Sawtooth Jack sounds like something dangerous. October Boy doesn't necessarily sound like something dangerous. In the movies, they exclusively refer to him as Sawtooth Jack, although he's credited with Sawtooth Jack / October Boy. But I do not remember them once referring to him as the October Boy. Also, they added, they have like rhymes and little sayings with him. He's the trick with the heart full of treats. Also, the weird thing is in the book, they stuff him with candy, which I guess is like this aspect of like starving the boys so they want to eat the candy that's in the October Boy. And I don't know if that's an aspect of the movie because it's honestly, it looks just like they're eating its organs or whatever.
In the opening scenes, when they jump the October Boy the year previous, they tear him apart and there's like gore. It looks like a gory fiasco. And it's supposed to be just candy. We can hardly tell in the silhouette that they're eating candy. They don't come across as hungry. They come across as bloodlust. Like they come across
feral.
As killers, feral. Yeah, thank you. Like it doesn't really have that same sort of feeling. Same with the Sawtooth Jack. It sounds like an enemy. It sounds like a scary beast, where October Boy doesn't so much. And I don't recall them using the word October Boy throughout the film. And I was looking forward to that because I always look forward to how the folklore, because this is a folk tale at the end of the day, how it's interpreted by different classes within the society, how it's interpreted by different age groups, whoever had dealt with him previously. It would be nice to see the younger generation calling him Sawtooth Jack almost exclusively because he is more dangerous and scary to them perhaps. And that once you've gotten comfortable with the idea and maybe know more of the unknowns that we don't always know, later in life you're calling him by a different name because the myth has grown along with you. And I was looking forward to seeing that, or as they introduce a difference in race and class within this town rather. And I was looking forward to maybe there's a different folklore within different races, but there isn't. And I was hoping that there was. I was hoping for so much more with the slight changes that they had made apparent at the beginning, and they didn't. And I really wish they would have, because instead we never learn the real name. It feels like we never learn the real name, which is sort of a double entendre considering how this story unfolds. But going to wartime when the enemy was always given a different name, and the soldiers would call somebody the Charlie or whatever instead of the actual real name of the people that they were fighting, to sort of dehumanize them. And that's what I was thinking with Sawtooth Jack in the book when it was used to describe the October Boy. It was to make him more scary, to make him more othered, instead of anything to do with human. But of course they drop that ball, like a few other balls that they drop within this. The family dynamics is a ball that they sort of drop within this, although it does lead to some very cool scenes when you have like Richie's parents and the mother specifically. Some of the scenes that involve her and her like mental downfall are pretty great. So I guess they have tried to like reel in some of the slack they gave themselves by changing so many things in the book, but some of the changes led me to look forward to things that never happened. Like seeing more candy stuffed in him and candy spilling out, and just the description of the monster entirely.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the creature's overall design once we get to that. When the film opens up, and we've been dancing around this, generally what you have is a bunch of feral boys that have attacked these people. Now, there is a champion, a person, and we will know who the winner is, Lids, because they will chant, Jim's the winner, Jim's the winner, Jim's the winner, Jim's the winner. That is old Jim Shepherd. He is the one that has killed Sawtooth Jack, and for his troubles he gets a party, and he gets to celebrate, and he gets his picture in the paper, and he gets the mayor to give him all kinds of kudos and a big fat novelty check, and he also gets a brand new car.
He gets to leave town on what we're assuming is an all expense paid trip down the highway in his new Corvette at midnight, it seems, because they see him off with fanfare at night after the party. And it's weird. It's sort of like the old-fashioned idea of the bum's rush after your wedding. It's like you pile in your car and you go on your honeymoon. Go, run.
Yeah, bye. No time to say goodbye to anybody. Like, it is time to go. We cut to almost a year later, and just town no good Nick, Richie Shepherd, with a hell bent for leather. He's got an axe to grind. He misses his brother. His brother is off on California dreaming and sending him postcards. He doesn't really hear about him, and he wants to like take his brother, or he wants to go to where his brother is. He's just really he seems to both love and hate his brother simultaneously. I think he's jealous that his brother left town, but angry that his brother left in general, but also hates that everyone thinks that his brother is so great, because his brother has this reputation around town as like Jim Shepherd. Like, that is like, that's the guy, that's the boy. And you get the sense that he was even perhaps outstanding playing football, like outstanding student. He was the guy before he was the guy. So this is just, and Richie is just so fucking mad. Like, he's just so goddamn angry, and he is mad at his parents. He is mad at his classmates. Like, he's just angry. Like, he is very unlikable. I just don't get it. Maybe if I was younger. Am I too old? Do I look at him like a parent now, and I'm just like, snot-nosed little brat? Like, fucking eat your goddamn food.
No, I don't think that's it, because I don't think that his sort of misplaced angst is lost on anyone of any generation. And you know, we don't agree with the other side of the coin, which is the parents and other people in town being, you should be happy, Richie, look at the nice house your parents have now with all that money that your brother won for them. Like, they got cars, they got a house, your dad has a great job, your mom's happy, you're happy, right? You are happy. don't act like this. Why are you acting like this? You know, no one would agree with that part of the story either, because there is absolutely something wrong with being paid off as they were. It feels like being paid off, but that doesn't justify his angst, and we can all kind of see through that. We don't really get the sense of sorrow that I was looking forward to, because there was a genuine sense of sorrow that is related to his brother's absence and the way things used to be. Maybe they might not have been so good, and maybe they didn't have this nice house, which is very 60s nice. It's very cookie cutter California nice, but it's nice, I suppose. It's not a trailer park. So I don't know, that sort of sorrow doesn't really sell it. So his angst is totally misplaced.
Well, he doesn't really have time to be angry, because he and the rest of the boys are going to get rallied up, and they're going to have to talk to old Officer Ricks, who is going to... This guy, it's got quite the coiled spring. Now, he kind of comes off... Do you remember in The Simpsons, there's that random teacher that's like, this is one guy that you're not going to screw with. It's like, that's Jerry Ricks to a T. Like, he has these highs and lows where he like goes from speaking normally to screeching his fucking lines. You can tell that he's got quite the coiled spring, but they're told in on no uncertain terms what is going on. Now, most of the boys don't seem to really be taking this seriously, to the point in which some of them even think that it's kind of bullshit. Although how you would think it's kind of bullshit when this happens in your town every year, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, Richie doesn't have to do it, though, actually. Because, you know, his brother, Jim Shepard, won. So, like, they don't have to participate. And this is like this idea that there's this entity that is coming to town, and it comes every single year. And it's Sawtooth Jack, and you got to kill him. And you got to kill him, and the town is saved. And if you don't do it, dust storms?
I don't really, yeah, the town will be swallowed up, basically. It's very doom and gloom, very fire and brimstone. And the fire and brimstone is heightened by the fact that Sawtooth Jack is trying to make his way to the church for whatever inexplicable reason, because this doesn't seem like a very Christian thing to be going on. He doesn't seem like a guy that needs to get there to what? Eat a holy cracker, dip his fingers in the baptismal pool. I don't know what it is that he's after at the church, and they don't describe it. They got to stop him before he makes it to the church.
Get me to the church on time. It's this ritual that happens. One thing that I was expecting was that the film was going to use its characters and its extra time to explain a little bit more. And in a way it kind of does, but at the expense of leaving things out that the book explained. So you still don't really get a complete picture about why all of this is happening. And it seems as though nobody really knows what's happening. And what's interesting about that is it could be a comment on religion itself, where everyone is just doing these rituals and practices over and over and over again, because if they don't, they will be punished. And why do you do it? Well, because my grandparents did it, and then it just goes all the way back. We could run back generation by generation, and if we don't do this, then it's apocalypse, at least for this town. And that's why no one can leave. No one can leave because there needs to be people here to stop Sawtooth Jack, because who wants to stay in a town that's doomed every year? And one thing that I will say that is absolutely brought to bug fuck hysteria is the violence in this and the amount of people that die in this versus the book, to the point in which it's like The Purge.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how unhinged these boys become. Now, gang, if you don't know, and why would you, unless you're familiar, which you might be, the idea is you got to stay. How many days is it, Lids? Is it 5 days or something
that you're starved for?
Yeah.
I believe it's 5 days with no food and no water, they specify.
Yeah.
Which is impossible.
Lock them in their bedrooms. I know, right?
Yeah.
They lock you in your bedroom, and they show all these boys getting locked in their bedrooms, and they're like trashing their fucking rooms, and they're absolutely losing their shit because they're starving. And it's like, in this moment, it's like they don't believe it was real until now. And then they're let loose onto the town. And it is the Purge. It is roving packs of humans in masks. And they're not just, they will kill fucking anything.
There's some of the younger folk who are like new to this. It's their first year at the run, that are like, fuck this. We're all going to lock ourselves down in the basement, in this cellar, and we're going to hide and let all the older boys who are hooting and hollering and stoked for this purge level of violence bullshit that want to win. They want to win. They don't, the other people, these other kids that are maybe just of age, don't want to participate. They don't give a shit about winning or losing. They just want nothing to do with it. There's other people that have plans of like, I'm just going to go stand in the cornfield, crouch down and hide and stay in a ball. You know, they don't want to participate. They just want to get through it. They just want the night to be over, and they'll glad hand the winner and get to eat something. That's all they want, is for this to be over. So I like that sort of like separation, and they do it very well in this movie. Like, people discussing what are their plans, how are they going to get through this night. You know, you got the few people that are fist pumping the air and like, I'm gonna kill him and all that, and I'm gonna be the winner at all costs. And then the other people that are like, I'm just gonna let you win. How about that? I'll just stand back. I did enjoy that.
There is Richie, who wants very badly to participate in the run. And as stated before, he doesn't have to. And in fact, his parents strongly forbid it. But he won't listen. He won't take their advice. He's quite these scenes with his parents, who are clearly trying to keep him safe and to not have him involved in the run because he doesn't have to. And Richie is just not listening whatsoever. He wants to be part of the run so fucking badly. And in a weird way, well, I mean, he states it as much as to say it's to prove that he's as good as his brother. That's how he's framing it to his father anyways. That like, oh, the great Jim Shepard. Well, Richie Shepard is just as good, and you're going to see that I'm also going to do this, and then I'm going to leave this town and I guess join my brother.
Yeah, I think that's the big driver of it, is that he just wants to go and find his brother. At the end of the day, he doesn't really care about the big fat check. He doesn't even care so much about the car as much as he cares about being able to leave town, because we start to get that sort of creepy supernatural aspect that you can't leave town, that there is a force field, there is tricks that the town plays on you to keep you in town. I love that aspect of this.
Yes. And then there's Officer Ricks, who is quite the zealot. He seems to be the primary face, or at least the primary enforcer of this harvester society. People who run the town effectively. And he very much takes everything very seriously. Now, we're going to learn that he's got quite a bit of history. He was around the last time that the October Boy won. And so he tells kind of a horrific story that I actually quite liked. It kind of gave me the there was a Jaws aspect to it, about, you know, Quint telling about his go to his friend, and his friend was gone from the waist up. This time it's like, what was it? It was his brother, and it was like he was like full of sand because he got locked out into this horrific sandstorm. And just the idea of like just being chuck full of sand, that just sounds so creepy and ghoulish. And so I really, really did like that aspect. So Ricks is really, really hell-bent on making sure that the October Boy is killed. It raises so many questions constantly about why this fucking happens. What is going on? How did this town get cursed? Some of those things will be answered, but not before Richie makes a friend. Now, he had spoken to this young woman before, Kelly, and she is kind of an outsider because she seems to be the only black person in the entire town, and this is the early 60s, and so if you think people are racist now, holy hell, in a small town in the early 1960s, they're even more racist. And they don't even like the fact that Richie is even hanging out with her is a big problem. Let alone that she is going to do something that no girl does, which is participate in the run.
Which makes me wonder, did she starve herself? Because I know that the point of her participating in the run isn't because she's hungry. She's hungry for something different. She's a very cool girl. I like her so much. She works at the theater. I mean, what isn't cooler than that? I don't know. She has good fashion sense. She has impeccable fashion sense. She is very, very bright and very, very witty. I love her very, very much.
She's very punchy. Like, there's so many times in this movie where I was like, Richie, it's a good thing that this kind of like rough and tumble, yet at the same time prim and proper young woman is with you, because like you would be dead. You would definitely be dead. Like, there's something kind of hilarious about the fact that Richie is so incompetent and so bad at everything.
It makes for a good pairing, definitely. And it is sort of like a trope of action films in a way, where you've got that fumbly bumbly one with the lopsided grin, so to speak, and the capable, competent person who happens to be Kelly. And I really like the introduction to her as the girl within this, and people sort of accept it. They probably accept her more as the girl that has participated in the run against all the rules by the time that people start seeing her. You see a lot less of like, what's that girl doing here kind of thing. I guess they're just they're so in the throes of it, it doesn't matter at that point. They're just like, oh, Kelly's here, I guess that's okay, whatever, which I like. I kind of like that. And she does probably get the highest level of acceptance that she gets in this town that night. And at the end of it, of course, I like that, because not only does she get her comeuppance in that this is the most accepted I've been in this town and the most useful that I've been in this town, that I don't have to deal with this anymore. But the other inclusion of this night is the man that tends the field. And I wish that we could just blame the field and the ground. The ground is sour. That's why this happens, Wes. Because the ground has decided that dust storms will come and decimate this town if people don't feed it people, I guess. I don't know. But there is this farmer that tends to the scarecrow magic. And I think that because of the cover of the book, even the cover of the film, the one sheet, it features like a cornfield. There's like a farmer or a scarecrow. You can't quite tell with that 3/4 lighting and semi-silhouette, that you're looking forward to the scarecrow magic. I know I was looking forward to the scarecrow magic. I was looking forward to seeing this scarecrow being stuffed with candy and get a pumpkin put on top of it and a face carved in it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the creature design. Did I think that it was going to look like the cover of the book? No, I didn't think it. But I was hoping.
Yeah, me too.
I was hoping it would be close. Its stock-like body, I kind of get. But there is just so much of it. They've decided to go practical, which is to their credit. It's interesting to go practical. But I think that they made so many classic Hollywood missteps in which we need to see this thing can't just have a pumpkin head because it's not human enough. It'll look too remote and we won't sympathize with it. We need to see its eyes. And we need it to have a fairly human shape, at least in the face. Now, you're not going to make any illusions that this is just like a normal boy. Absolutely not. He's elongated, stretched out. He does have something that I guess could be considered a pumpkin, but I'll tell you, it looks more like an apple to me, and it doesn't. And the teeth drive me crazy. I can't stand these weird little human baby teeth things that it has. It makes the Sawtooth Jack name make absolutely no fucking sense to me. And it's just bad. It doesn't look good. It's not scary. And they could never really make it seem as though it was moving fast enough, realistically enough to be dangerous. They would... You want to know what it really honestly reminded me of? It reminds me about how janky Pumpkinhead is from the Pumpkinhead movies.
Yeah.
Like just like I love those Pumpkinhead movies. Like I fucking love those movies. One day, but not this day. But in Pumpkinhead himself like really looks like a fucking big puppet. I mean, I know that there's actors, but it looks like, and you wonder like, how is anyone getting chased down by this thing? It looks like it moves so slow. In Dark Harvest, you have the same problems. It close-up shots with this creature. It moves so poorly that you're like, how on earth is anyone getting caught like this? But then they also intersplice it with scenes of this thing moving so impossibly fast that like people's entire heads are getting cut off, and people are getting killed so fast that you can't even really process what's happening. They tried to have their cake and eat it too, but the biggest but beyond the fact that like I'd rather it have been Pete than Richie, beyond the fact that I don't think you need a brother connection to make the story make sense or to make you feel compelled, and that's guaranteed what the problem was. It's just again Hollywood missteps where they're just like, we need more of a connection between Richie and Jim. Like it doesn't make any sense that it's not his brother. It needs to be a member of his family. Why does it need to be a member of his family? It doesn't matter whatsoever. But to a Hollywood writer, yeah, absolutely. You got to have that. It's like, why did the Joker kill Batman's parents in the original Batman 89 movie? It's like, oh, because you need a reason why Batman hates the Joker. No, you don't. That's the Joker. He's supposed to hate that guy. Like, you don't need more of a fucking explanation than that. And then you have a generation of people being like, the Joker killed Batman's parents. It was Joe Chill. It was not the Joker. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. But it's true. It is true.
This is my point. I think that the creature design here is probably the thing that I was the most disappointed with.
Really? I was disappointed with that. I was disappointed with the lack of connections within this town. I was disappointed with the creature design, yes, because I expected something, like I said, like Sam from Trick or Treat. I expected something a lot more nimble, as you put it when we were talking before the show. Nimble is the word that was the feeling that was missing. I way more missed the connections within the people in this town. I missed the story behind the person who brings the October Boy to life. When I saw that it was just some rando farmer dude that is probably there every year and has been there for decades doing the same thing, I was very disappointed. Because on one hand, you could watch this movie and not read the book and think like, what's wrong with that? There's something so much more deeper with the Joker killed Batman's parents with a story like this, where you get familial connections to the person who raises the October Boy every year. And it would have given some feeling to that angst if you had known in your heart of hearts that your father was the guy that raised the October Boy than just some random farmer. And I felt that was the biggest ball that was dropped in this film. But yeah,
all right. I agree with you. You changed my mind. I was being a little visually oriented, which is a problem of mine. But you're right. I agree with you. Now, Lid, since you let the cat out of the bag, and I've been like monologuing way too many times in this episode, how about you drop the ball officially? What is going on here with the October Boy?
Every single year, the story begins with someone winning against the previous October Boy. It doesn't begin when something rises out of the field that we don't know what it is. The story really begins with whoever wins, whoever kills the October Boy, whoever finally gets their clutches in on all that candy that the October Boy is apparently stuffed with and shares it with all their friends, who hoist them on their shoulders, and they have a big party, and their parents get thousands of dollars, like 30,000 whole dollars in the 1960s, which is like $1 billion today. And they get shoved into a Corvette, slapped on the ass, and sent out of town because they're allowed to leave because no one else is. That's when the story begins, because they drive to the edge of town where they are stopped by Officer Ricks, and they are manhandled into the field. They are killed by their father, basically, and all the forefathers, the Harvest Society, and they are buried in that field for 1 year until they are resurrected with a pumpkin on their head, and they become the next Sawtooth Jack, October Boy. The point is to only get to that church on time before everyone in the town kills them, because all the boys have been riled up to become the next winner, which sounds so nice, to win and kill the October Boy and save the town, which you're not. Your real job is to die and be buried out in that field for a year so that whatever big deep darkies are in there don't come out.
This story aspect is the strongest thing, both in the book and both in the movie. This story of the winner being killed and buried in the ground November 1st to 1 year later, be brought back as a pumpkin boy who holds their memories and knows the truth and knows what their job is to get to that church. And what happens to the October Boy when they get to that church? We don't know what happens to the October Boy, but we know what happens to that town if he does. And then, you know, the father carving the face and then stuffing him with candy in the shiny black Corvette that only has like a couple of miles on it because it sits in his driveway because he's so haunted and ashamed and can't bear to use it, and no one's happy about what they won. Richie learns that Jim Shepard, his brother, the previous winner, never went to California, and it seems strangely as he talks to his family, asks his mother, and we hear rumors throughout the film about what happened to this winner, what happened to that winner, and wouldn't you know it, Lids? There's always a story about why they left and never came back. Sometimes they hit it big as a author. Another person became a musician. And again, another weird Misfits reference where they talked about a winner becoming a musician, and then they denied it and were laughing, and then one of them just randomly said "Teenagers from Mars," and I was like, what is with all the Misfits references? This is the 1960s. They're not a thing. Like, I don't, so like, I don't get it. So, I mean, maybe they're wearing crimson ghost masks, you know, popular film that definitely had Halloween masks in the 1960s. But anyway, enough of the Misfits. I'm wearing a Misfits shirt right now.
I know. I saw that. Under your very scholarly sweater, which makes you look like you're about to write a novel or read 12 of them.
I read a book for the episode, Lids. I felt being a little collegiate was appropriate, actually. So this aspect of the story is fucking fascinating to me and really is a very strong idea. I just like it. It's good. It's a good fucking idea. And then learning the truth of this, and, you know, trying to, in the book, burn the whole thing down, so to speak. And then in the movie, trying to be the person, like, do you protect your brother now? Can you not let anyone kill the October Boy? And then you get this sense that it's all falling apart and the October Boy is going to get to the church. But then, you know, Officer Ricks also does not want that to happen. And, you know, Richie's father is also out on the scenes, doubting everything because his son is out there on the run, and what he knows what's going to happen. Does he lose both his kids to the October Boy? So there's so many different things going on that are really, really fucking strong stuff. Really strong stuff. And even though like there's aspects of this film that bother me, the core story I think is quite genius.
It is. And it opens up some scenes like the mother finally admitting that she was the one that wrote all those postcards and having her final Stepford Wives level of shenanigans torn down around her. and she commits suicide in a very bloody manner. Like, there's a lot of blood, and like you were saying, that the creature not being very nimble and being like something that you couldn't expect to catch you, but then being able to pull these acrobatic kills off. It reminds me so much of like Let the Right One In, when it reaches its level of you beginning to see the alacrity that Ellie has. We get to see the alacrity that Sawtooth Jack has here and in some of these kills. And that's not the only gore. There is some like people torn right apart kind of gore, and it's really wonderful. Like, the effects are really, really wonderful. The mother killing herself is quite visceral, and I really enjoyed that scene. It was done very well, and her character had, I think, just enough screen time. If they did anything really well where they were, fine-tuning some of the storytelling in this, as little as she's on screen, I think that the mother was just such a well-wrought character. Really good sort of story arc there. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed just the town at night. That's the other thing, that maybe the other feel that they got right. It might not be the right sort of mood in this town, but they got the look down. It is cornfields and dark and leaves and streetlights and this heavy, crisp air that you can feel. It just feels like Halloween, so they really got that. Even right till the end scenes where everyone's sort of like getting tired and bloodied and they're dragging their asses to the church for this final showdown because Richie has a gun. That's something that no one uses in this. You're not supposed to shoot the October Boy. You're supposed to stop and kill the October Boy, whether you tear him apart with your bare hands or use a knife. You're supposed to stop him, not shoot him.
You're absolutely right. And not only, people are genuinely shocked that he has a gun. Now, they stole it from Officer Rick's home. He had an extra gun there, and they took it. And that is Richie's idea for like how he's going to get the upper hand, going to get the edge on here, because maybe he realizes that between not being well liked in the first place, he's had several altercations with like the footballer, the square jawed guy who is like beat his ass on more than one occasion, and so not only does he have the October Boy to look out for, but he also has the other boys to look out for. He's got Kelly with him, which helps quite a bit, but he's also quite distraught now. And I just wanted to agree with you about the mother, Donna. Her character is that evangelical Stepford wife hybrid thing that she's got going on, the sort of manic, the contained mania, and her like just a raw emotion where she can't bear what she has done and what is going to happen, leading to her killing herself. Yeah, very good. There was also that moment where Sawtooth Jack kills all those boys in that cellar, where there's so much blood and gore. It's like a scene out of Evil Dead. It's just a geyser of blood, and you just get this sense where like, holy fuck, like how many teen boys are you guys blowing through every year? It's crazy.
Yeah, like it's a wonder to me that there's people left to compete, or that people want to, because there's people that are repeat competitors. They come back every year because they're going to clinch it this year. Last year I was only 16, now I'm 17. I'm going to give them what for? That they have seen this over and over. They have seen it through their windows at 10, 12, 13 years old and know what goes down out there. Yeah, they've lost a lot of boys this year. Are there boys to replace that? It doesn't seem so, because this is a town that's a population of less than 5,000, I'd guess. We seem to meet everybody in town, don't we? There's like, what, 2 cops? 1 real cop?
There's one guy that owns the butcher shop that like gets like torn apart by hungry teen boys. There's not too many people. There is an aspect of this film that where Richie knows what's going on and wants to help his brother. Now, he learns about this because he's got a belt buckle lids that he's quite fond of. He's got a matching belt buckle with his brother. Now, when he encounters the October Boy, this is the tip-off for sure, is when he sees that the October Boy has the same belt buckle as his, the same belt buckle that his brother wore. And that's what leads all this together. And Richie just can't bring himself to do it. But, you know, the October Boy is also like, so many other people don't know this, don't care. And also Officer Ricks has employed the footballer, the person that Richie's been antagonizing, like, congratulations,
you're gonna win.
You're this year's champ. You're gonna win, because he hands him another gun.
So it's going to be a standoff, because not only do we have the October Boy ending up with a gun to his head from his own brother, who doesn't want to shoot him, that realizes, oh my God, this is Jim. That's what's going to happen. Not only will I pull this trigger and kill my brother, I'll win, and that will be me next year. Holy fucking shit. Then Riley there going to shoot him. So we get this sort of like in and out of the church, on the church steps sort of scene, very John Wick.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Richie does kill his brother. His brother wants him to kill him.
There is an aspect of this that I really dug, where that lonely party / celebration scene. Now, it's, to be clear, outside of the October Society, or the Harvest Society, not the October Society. Outside the Harvest Society, adults don't really seem to know what's really going on. Now, we find out that Dan and Donna, they found out about what was going to happen to Jim literally the night that he won. And when Richie is there, you know, he's just sort of sitting there haunted, and Kelly and him, like, she gives him his dance, and they both know what's going on. And the idea, I guess, is you get in that car and you try to get the hell out of there. But Richie knows what's coming. Do you think that's weird that he doesn't put up more than a fuss? He seems so defeated in the moment. Now, he fights back later, but in this moment, like, he doesn't shout out to the crowd. He doesn't try to spill the beans. He doesn't really try to do anything. He's just, yeah, but thanks for the check. Yep, I'm at the party. Thanks for the car.
I think that he's just like going through the motions, because he's like, okay, whatever my brother did once he left town, I'm going to do differently. I'm going to go drive faster. I'm going to, do all those things. And it harkens back to the whole, I'm as good as Jim. I'm maybe better than Jim. He's not the guy. I'm the guy. So I'm going to get in that car and I'm going to get out of this town, and I'm going to take my friend Kelly with me. We're going to be free of this. We're going to be our own people. So I'm just going to keep my head down till I get in that car, because that's the goal now. The goal is getting in the car to get out of town. Not that he knows exactly where his brother failed between getting in the car and being buried in the field, but he knows he's not going to fail. So I think that's the only reason he's going through the motions the way that he is and not freaking out. He's lost that angst too that we have at the beginning. He's not punching walls. He's not moping. He's not clenched tight. He's pretty chill. It doesn't seem to fit, but I think it's just to drive home that the goal is getting in that car.
I think that you're absolutely right, because he also has an edge that Jim never had. He knows what's going to happen. And so does his fucking femme fatale, Kelly, who slips him a fucking piece. He's got a gun now. And when they get to the city limits and they're stopped by Officer Ricks, plural, he shoots him. He gets a drop on him. Kelly hides, but Richie gets a drop on him, and you're just like, okay, we got it. And, you know, even Officer Rick's attitude towards the end, like, he just seems happy. He's like, okay, the October Boy has been killed. I can unclench my asshole for 5 minutes. This aspect, and I know I've been going hard on the Richie character, basically from the opening, but I did want to say what I do think is effective, particularly in this scene, and maybe what I haven't been giving Richie credit for the entire time, is he is a fucking kid. And this is a horrendous and completely unreasonable thing to make a kid do. And this is a completely unreasonable thing for a kid to face. And when you see him shoot Officer Ricks, he is calm, he's collected, he does what he needs to do. But then in that moment, when that farmer shows up and gets the drop on him, he is in that hole, you know, like, he is pulling his knife. Again, he's going reflexively on, like, how he has protected himself and failed every time, but tried to protect himself in the past. Pull out a knife, try to look intimidating, try to get your way out of this. And when that doesn't work, he literally and quite heartfeltly begs for his life, to no avail. But he does beg for his life. And as much as, like, and by the way, it's not the actor Casey likes. It's not him. It's the character that I had a problem with. I think that he plays the role adequately. And in this scene, you actually see him get to flex a little bit of his acting chops in a way that I find compelling and sympathetic. It's very effective. It works. And this scene absolutely fucking works. And we are treated to a bit of a time lapse, which is very cool, by the way. And, well, guess what? It's 1 year later.
1 year later, and that farmer, who has acted as insurance probably more times than he can count, and definitely more times than we have seen, because he seems to be very good. He's probably dealt with the begging for their lives boys 10 times throughout his lifetime as the warden of this field. He gets ambushed by the father, by Richie's father, which is fantastic. And it sort of harkens back to the way I think that it ought to be. It should be the fathers burying and digging up their sons. And this farmer addition is just a sort of a weird character to have. But yeah, we do get to see the rising of the next October Boy.
Now, is it happening earlier than it's supposed to? Because the farmer is like, what are you doing? And so, and then also Dan's order to his son, like burn it all down. I'd be like, yeah, that's where I know that. Like, I know I'm going there already. But now Ricks is gone, the farmer is gone, and it seemed to be that he'd cut him down a little early. So maybe even like all the boys are still locked up in their rooms, and he's just gonna like march in on the town and destroy it.
That's what I'm guessing.
Because Dan's lost everything.
Because all he needs even is a half hour head start. They're not that far out of town. They're really not. So yeah, that's what I took it as.
Very, very interesting. I think that for this film in particular, I do have some big problems with it. But like I said, the core story is very interesting. I think that I had just wished that they had either accepted the fact that the main character didn't need to be connected to the previous winner in a way that is anything more than like they're sacrificing teen boys to perpetuate this bizarre curse. Like, isn't that enough? It doesn't really need to be his brother, because by being a victor, by being a potential victor, you are connected to the previous October Boy, because the next October Boy could be any one of you. And it's a long, unending line of boys being duped into killing themselves, or like I don't know if it's a Pyrrhic victory or whatever you call where you're winning but you're losing or whatever, but it's that. And I just feel like the anonymous, it could have been anybody aspect of the original story was something that I was deeply missing. But all that to be said, the film is fairly effective on its own for at least the key scenes that I was talking about.
And it is extremely atmospheric. It is a quintessential Halloween story. And it's, maybe has a little bit of the whimsy of almost like an R.L. Stine or a more kids, middle grade sort of feel, but it is extremely violent. So it's not suitable for middle grade. It's far more of an adult tale, but it has that fun that maybe we miss because we can't dress up and go trick-or-treating anymore, Wes. We're starved for candy. We're locked up as adults, aren't we?
I never thought about it that way, but I will say, if anything, Halloween, trick-or-treating, it's a state of mind. And I say that on December 2nd or 3rd or whatever day it is today that we're recording this. And so that's how come I think it's fine that we did a Halloween movie just a little bit late. It's fine. But what do we got next for him, Lids?
Coming up next, we are actually going to succumb to the season and do a Christmas-themed horror. So we are between two films right now, Better Watch Out and Elves, and both seem to be very strong contenders. So
you better watch out for that. Do you think that they couldn't fill in with candy because they named like a lot of name brand candy in that book? Maybe it was like, we can't say Clark bars in this movie, it'll cost a fortune. Do you think that's what it was?
Well, they could have like renamed them like, Sweet Dreams and, a Mr. Bar. They could have like stuffed them with Reese's Bits.
The Reese's is the part that they probably have trademarked. I don't know if it's a Clark bar or it's like a Cat Kit bar. There you go.
A Cat Kit bar and a Rich's Pieces. And, they could come up with all sorts of names. Zagnut. They could just stuff them with Zagnut. They've already used that in Beetlejuice. They could just stuff them with Beetlejuice bars.
If they kill the October boy this year, they're technically going to be eating Richie's Pieces.
Oh my God. It's not a lie. It's very true. Very, very true.
And on that note, I'm Wes Knipe.
And I'm Typical Lydia.
And you've been listening to Dead Air. If you like this show, you can find more episodes and other content on splatterpictures.net, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you download your podcasts. You can also find us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is edited by Lydia Peaver and hosted by Lydia Peaver and me, Wes Knipe. We'll see you next time.